Have you ever felt like heaven went quiet? Right when you needed it the most. Like your prayers were rising, but no answer was coming back. Like God suddenly stepped away and left you in the dark. Listen closely, because this silence is not what you think it is. This silence is not abandonment. This silence is preparation. Because when God is about to do something big, He does not always speak louder. Sometimes He becomes still. Sometimes He removes the noise. Sometimes He allows the waiting to stretch your faith until it feels like it might break. But it will not break you. It will build you. Because in the quiet, God is working on things you cannot see. He is aligning moments you cannot control. He is opening doors you do not even know exist yet. And every second of silence has a purpose. Every delay is not denial. Every moment you feel forgotten is actually a moment you are being prepared. Because when God speaks again, everything will change. The same voice that calmed the storm will speak into your life. And what felt like silence will suddenly make sense. So do not rush the season. Do not run from the quiet. Because something big is coming. Something greater than you imagined. Something worth the wait. And when it arrives, you will realize God was never silent. He was simply working. And just when you thought the silence would never end, something begins to shift. Not around you, but within you. Because before God changes your situation, He changes your spirit. Before He releases the blessing, He prepares the vessel. And right now, you are being prepared. I know it feels heavy. I know it feels confusing. You ask yourself, why is nothing happening? But what if something is happening? Just not in the way you expected. What if God is protecting you from what you are not ready to handle yet? What if the delay is saving you from destruction? Because timing matters. And God's timing is perfect. Even when it feels painful. You see, silence forces you to trust. It strips away distractions. It removes false comfort. It brings you to a place where all you have left is faith. And that is exactly where God wants you. Not dependent on signs. Not dependent on feelings. But fully surrendered. Because miracles don't always start with noise. They often begin in stillness. Think about it. The seed grows in silence. The night prepares the morning. And even in the tomb, before resurrection came, there was silence. But that silence was not the end. It was the setup. So if your life feels quiet right now, do not panic. If heaven feels still, do not lose hope. Because God is not ignoring you. He is positioning you. He is working behind the scenes, writing a story you cannot read yet. And when the moment comes, when everything finally breaks open, it will not be small. It will be undeniable. Doors will open. Chains will break. Peace will flood your heart like never before. And you will look back at this silent season and say, now I understand. God was never absent. He was preparing something bigger than I prayed for. So hold on a little longer. Stay faithful in the quiet. Because what is coming will make this silence worth it. And when it finally happens, it will not come quietly. The same God who seems silent will move in a way you cannot ignore. In a single moment, everything can change. What felt stuck will begin to move. What felt closed will begin to open. Because when God decides it is time, nothing can stop it. No delay, no person, no obstacle can stand in the way. But here is what you must understand. The silence you endured was building the strength you needed. Because the blessing that is coming requires a stronger version of you, a deeper faith, a steadier heart, a spirit that will not break under pressure. That is why God waited. Not to hurt you, but to prepare you. Not to deny you, but to develop you. Because what He is about to release is bigger than what you asked for, greater than what you imagined. And if it came too early, you would not have been ready. So He kept you in the silence just a little longer, to shape you, to refine you, to transform you. And now, you are not the same person anymore. You pray differently. You think differently. You believe differently. Because silence changed you. And that is the miracle. Before the miracle. Because when the outside finally shifts, it will match what God already did inside you. So do not regret the quiet season. Honor it. Because it carried you when you did not even realize it. And now, you are standing at the edge of something new, something powerful, something life-changing. And when it unfolds, you will not just see God's hand. You will feel His presence, stronger than ever before. So lift your head. Keep your faith. Because the silence is breaking. And what is coming next will change everything. And right before everything changes, there is always one final test. One last moment of silence. That feels heavier than all the others. It feels like nothing is moving. Like heaven is completely still. But this is the turning point. Because God will often wait until you reach the place where you stop depending on what you see and start trusting who He is. No signs, no confirmation, just faith. Pure faith. The kind of faith that says, even if I don't hear you, I still believe you. That is where breakthrough begins. Not when everything makes sense, but when you choose to trust anyway. Because at that moment, your faith is no longer fragile. It becomes unshakable. An unshakable faith always moves the hand of God. So if right now it feels harder than ever, if the silence feels deeper, if the waiting feels longer, do not give up. You are not being pushed away. You are being pulled closer. Closer to a breakthrough. Closer to an answer. Closer to a miracle. Because God does His greatest work in what feels like the darkest moment, just before the light breaks through. And suddenly, without warning, everything shifts. The door opens. The answer comes. The peace returns. The joy overflows. And what once felt impossible becomes your reality. Not slowly, but suddenly. Because that is how God works. He may take His time preparing, but when He moves fast. So hold on. Just a little longer. Stay in position. Stay in faith. Because you are not waiting anymore. You are standing on the edge of your breakthrough. And the silence is about to be replaced with a voice. A powerful, undeniable, life-changing voice that will remind you God was always there. And He was always working. And when the silence finally breaks, it will not just be an answer. It will be a revelation. You will see clearly what you once questioned. You will understand what once confused you. Because God does not just respond. He reveals. He reveals why you had to wait. Why doors had to close. Why people had to leave. Why plans had to fall apart. It was never random. It was always intentional. Every tear you cried. Every night you felt alone. Every prayer that seemed unanswered was being stored, not forgotten. Because God was building something. Piece by piece. Moment by moment. Something so precise. So perfectly timed. That if even one detail changed, it would not be what he promised. That is why he stayed silent. Not because he didn't care. But because he cared too much to give you anything less than his best. And now the moment has come. What you waited for is finally here. The breakthrough. The answer. The shift. It all arrives. Not as a coincidence, but as confirmation. Confirmation that God was guiding you, even in the dark. That he was speaking, even in the silence. That he was near, even when you felt alone. And in that moment, your faith will no longer be based on hope. It will be built on experience. You will not just believe. You will know. You will know that silence was never empty. It was full of purpose. You will know that waiting was never wasted. It was part of the process. And you will know that when God seems silent, it is only because something big, something powerful, something life-changing is on the way. So never fear the silence again. Embrace it. Trust it. Because the same God who was with you in the quiet will be with you in the victory. And this time, you will recognize his voice, even in the silence. And even after the breakthrough, there will be a moment, a quiet moment, where you look back at everything you went through. The waiting, the silence, the confusion, and you will realize it was all leading here. Every delay, every closed door was not rejection. It was redirection. Because God was not just taking you somewhere. He was transforming who you are. You are stronger now. Wiser now. More patient. More grounded. More connected to him than ever before. And that is the kind of growth only silence can produce. Because noise can distract you. But silence reveals you. It reveals your fears, your doubts. But it also reveals your faith. The part of you that refuses to quit. The part of you that keeps believing, even when nothing makes sense. And that is the version of you God was building all along. Because the life he has for you requires more than just desire. It requires endurance. It requires trust. It requires a faith that does not shake when things go quiet. So now, as you stand in this new season, do not forget where you came from. Do not forget the silent nights, the unanswered prayers, because they were not empty. They were sacred. They were the place where God shaped you, where he held you together when you felt like falling apart. And even now, when everything is finally making sense, remember this. There may be another season of silence, another moment of waiting, But this time, you will not be afraid. Because now you know. Silence is not the absence of God. It is the evidence that He is working deeper, stronger, beyond what you can see. So walk forward with confidence. Walk forward with faith. Because no matter how quiet it gets, you are never alone. And you never will be. Because the same God who carried you through the silence will carry you through everything that comes next. And one day, without even realizing it, you will become the person you once prayed to be. The strength you asked for will be inside you. The peace you searched for will surround you. The faith you struggled to hold will now hold you. And you will look back, not with pain, but with gratitude. Because what once broke you actually built you. What once confused you now makes perfect sense. Because God never wastes a season. Not the waiting. Not the silence. Not even the moments you thought were your lowest. He uses it all. Every detail. Every delay. Every hidden tear. To shape a story that will one day inspire others. Yes, others. Because your silence was never just about you. It was preparation. So you could speak when someone else feels lost. So you could stand when someone else feels weak. So you could say, I've been there. I've felt that silence. And God still came through. Because He always does. Not always when you want, but always when it is right. And when that moment comes, you will not just see the blessing. You will become the blessing. A living testimony of what God can do with a life that refuses to give up. So if you are still in the silence, if you are still waiting, do not lose heart. Your story is not over. In fact, it is just getting powerful. Because God saves His greatest work for those who keep believing, even when they cannot see. So keep walking. Keep trusting. Keep holding on. Because the silence is not your ending. It is your becoming. And as you keep walking forward, there will be moments where the silence tries to return. Not as before, but as a whisper. A whisper that asks, will you still trust me now? Because faith is not proven when everything is clear. Faith is proven when everything goes quiet again. But this time, you are not the same. You have seen too much. You have come too far to doubt what God can do. Because now you remember. You remember how He carried you when you thought you wouldn't make it. You remember how He provided when there was no way. You remember how He answered even when it felt like He never would. And those memories, they become your strength. They become your anchor. So when the silence whispers again, you will not panic. You will stand. You will breathe. And you will say, God, I trust you. Even here. Even now. And that kind of faith, that steady, unshaken faith, it opens doors. It moves mountains. It invites God to do even greater things. Because trust is what turns waiting into worship, and silence into surrender. So do not fear the quiet anymore. Do not run from it. Because sometimes the silence is not a test. It is an invitation. An invitation to come closer. To know God deeper. To hear Him. Not with your ears, but with your spirit. And in that place, you will discover something powerful. That God was never far away. Not for a second. Not for a moment. He was right there. In every breath. In every tear. In every silent prayer. Waiting for you to realize that even in the silence, you were never alone. And you never will be. And now, you are standing in a place where fear no longer controls you. Not because life became easy, but because you finally understand. God is with you, even when it feels quiet. And that changes everything. Because now, silence does not shake you. It strengthens you. Waiting does not break you. It builds you. And uncertainty, it no longer scares you. Because you know that behind every unseen moment, God is still working, still moving, still preparing something greater. So you walk differently now. With confidence, with peace, with a quiet strength that the world cannot explain. Because it did not come from noise. It came from silence. From those hidden seasons where no one saw your struggle, but God saw everything. Where no one heard your prayers, but God heard every word. Where no one understood your pain, but God felt every tear. And He never left. Not once. Not even in your lowest moment. And that truth, it becomes your foundation. So no matter what comes next, no matter how dark it looks, or how quiet it feels, you will not be moved. Because your faith is no longer based on what you feel. It is based on who God is. Unchanging, unfailing, unstoppable. And when you live with that kind of faith, you become unstoppable too. Not because of your strength, but because of His power working through you. So keep going. Keep trusting. Keep believing. Because the journey is not over. There is still more ahead. More growth. More purpose. More moments where God will show up in ways that leave you speechless. And when those moments come, you will not question the silence anymore. You will embrace it. Because you know, silence is not empty. It is where God does His greatest work. Deep beneath the surface. Beyond what eyes can see. Preparing something eternal. Something powerful. Something that will remind you, again and again, that when God is silent, it only means something big is still coming. And in the end, you will finally understand that it was never about the noise. It was never about constant signs or immediate answers. It was always about trust. The kind of trust that stands firm in the silence. The kind of faith that keeps walking in the dark, believing that even when you cannot hear Him, God is still speaking. Not through words, but through timing, through alignment, through unseen protection. Because there were things He kept from you that would have broken you. There were doors He did not open because they were not meant for you. There were delays that saved you, even when you did not realize it. And now, as you look at your life, you can see the pattern. You can see the purpose. You can see His hand in every moment you once questioned. And suddenly, the silence makes sense. Every quiet night, every unanswered prayer, every moment you felt forgotten, was actually filled with divine intention. Because God was never late. Not once. He was precise. Perfect in every detail. Perfect in every delay. Perfect in every silence. And now, you carry something different. A peace that does not depend on circumstances. A faith that does not depend on feelings. A confidence that does not depend on outcomes. Because you know, no matter what happens next, no matter how quiet it gets again, God is still God. Still faithful. Still present. Still working. So you do not chase noise anymore. You do not beg for constant signs. You simply trust. Deeply. Fully. Completely. Because you have lived through the silence. And you have seen what comes after it. And that is enough. More than enough. To keep you moving forward. To keep you standing strong. To keep you believing. Until the very end. Because now you know the truth. When God is silent, it is never empty. It is always full. Full of purpose. Full of power. Full of promise. And just beyond that silence, something big is always waiting.